Hi, so this is an update of what we have been able to achieve with regards to getting a solution for the minimize.com reporting. Now, our original premise was to use MySQL connector in Google Data Studio to get data from the website and use it to power the Data Studio templates. Now, we came to the realization that WordPress uses a relational database system. What this means is that the data is stored in different tables. So not all the data is not on one table, rather on different tables, so that if you want to get this data, you have to query different tables to combine the results into what you want to get. Okay, now that would be okay if the MySQL connector in Data Studio allowed us to connect to different tables. But now the problem is that the MySQL connector in Data Studio forces us to choose a single database, as you can see here. Okay, and then when you enter the right credentials here, it gives you a list of tables and forces you to choose one of those tables to get data from. Now this is a problem because it means we cannot have all the data we need for the reports and also for the taxation purposes. Now this led us to trying to see whether we can use the Woocommerce API. Whenever you install a WordPress website or a Woocommerce website, you by default have an API. So what we did was we created API keys, new API keys, because the ones that were in use before were revoked. So I created API keys, this one, testing for GDS integration, and it's under the user Paul, and this is part of the key. Okay, and this key only has read access, which means it cannot affect the website in any way. It cannot write anything to the website. It's only for reading purposes. Okay, now I wrote some code here that would get data from the API and then write this data to a CSV file. Okay, now if we look at the folder where this project is sitting, see there's no CSV file, there's no this minimize.csv file. It's not here. It will be generated after this code interacts with the API, gets the data, and then it will write this data to the CSV file. Okay, so let us run this code and see how it works. Okay, so I'm going to say Python, then app.py, then run that. Now I've set it so that every time it runs, it prints out the status code. Status code of 200 means success, and this data is going to go from page 1 to page 11, each page containing 100 records. So as you can see here in the terminal, it says 200, which means it got the first 100, then the second 100, then the third 100. So it's going to go back and forth until it gets data from page 1 to page 11. Okay, and I'm going to explain why this is the case. First, let us see whether it works. So it's almost done. Nice, so it's done. Now if we go back here, now we can see a minimize.csv file. Okay, if we open this in Excel, we are going to see all the orders from page 1 to page 11, each page containing 100 records. Okay, now here you can see it wrote the column headers for us, and then if we scroll down, to the 1,000 rows. -1 because of the column header, so it's 1,000 rows. Now what I'd like you to notice is that on top of those 1,000 rows, for each row, how much data it got, how much data it got for us. I've highlighted the column headers, and you can see here it got 43 columns. Okay, so it got everything from the refunds to the date completed, the shipping method, everything, to the billing, to the customer data. And even more interesting, when there is a refund here, let's see, look for a record that has a refund. I think there has to be one somewhere. Yeah, there are several of them. Okay, now if I click on this cell here, I can see that the ID was, this was the ID, and the reason, it gives me the reason for the refund and the total for the refund. This is just how much data we can get from the API. Okay, and it's getting data for all order statuses: on hold, processing, failed, okay, cancelled, like that. So the advantage of this is that we don't need to write any custom Excel formula. So just by running that script, we can get all the data we need for tax reporting purposes. And this data can also be used to power Google Data Studio templates. Okay, so this I could have written this data to I could have written this all this data to a Google Sheets document. Okay, I could have written, because by this point I have all the data. It's now me who is choosing to write it to a CSV file. But why write to a CSV file while I can write it to a Google Sheets document? Well, if you come to this page for Google Sheets API, you'll see usage limits, and here Google gives us a maximum of 500 requests per 100 seconds per project, and 100 requests per 100 seconds per user. Okay, 100 requests per 100 seconds. That means 100 rows every 100 seconds. That is the maximum. Based on the data that we are dealing with, this will be it will exceed this limit very fast. Okay, and what happens when it exceeds this limit is that the connection fails, so that you cannot write any more data to the spreadsheet again. Okay, now the solution Google gives us is that we have a billing account for the project, and then that way we can change the quotas, the maximum quota limit. The problem is Google does not tell us how much they are going to charge for how many requests. This is like Google Ads, whereby you just give your credit card number and then they charge it based on the number of clicks or based on some events that happen. So this is the same. And if we are going to update this data in real time, I think this could add up to quite a substantial amount. I'm not sure how much Google charges, but querying around 6,000, 7,000 rows and pushing them to Google Sheets, I think that one, and it's the whole day after day, I think it's going to amount to something substantial. Okay. Now, one solution, though it's not very ideal, would be to have a Google Sheets document. Okay. Now, this Google Sheet document can be connected to all the dashboards. Then what we can do is we can say that we'll be updating or generating data from the API like once or twice a day, and then this data that we generate, we're just going to come and hit Control A, then Control C, and then come here to our spreadsheet, clear out all the data that's here, and then paste over it. Because the data that is generated will always have the same format, we can expect that there will be no errors, and this sheet can be used to power the different Google Data Studio templates. Also, this can be used for tax reporting because it has all the columns that are necessary. For example, if you look here, we see that the currency was the customer used euro as a currency, and so all these figures here from discount total to discount tax to shipping total to shipping tax and everything else, and even the total here, these are all in euros. Okay, now there's another user who was using NOK, and these values are for NOK. So as you can see, all the data is here. We have all the data here. You can see here, we're even getting even the device the customer used to, the agent the customer used to make the order. Okay, we have the billing name, we have the shipping name. Okay, we have all this data. We have the state, we have the country. We even here we can even see whether the price included the tax. Okay, right here on the very edge, we can see even the refunds and the shipping, the payment method. So here the user was using multi-safe pay bank transaction, and the payment title was, I'm not sure what this is, but the second one was using PayPal, and so on and so on. Okay, so that's one solution. So that solution is just it will be copy pasting, but it will be a bit inconvenient, but it's free. Okay, now the other solution is to use add-ons. Okay, so we can use an add-on, like here if I go to Google Sheet, I can go to get add-ons. Okay, it will populate with a list of all add-ons available for Google Sheets. Now here I'm going to search for all add-ons that are related to MySQL. Okay, now it gives me a list of around 7. It gives me a list of around 7 add-ons that we can use with to query data from a MySQL database. We are trying out these different options to see how they work, whether they can get us all the data we need. We have not found yet one that does, but we are trying all of them. Okay, but you see, the question still remains is that when you use these tools, they are still going to interact with the Google Sheets API, because you're not going to be interacting with them yourself or the customer by themselves. It's going to be interacting with the API. So this means that one way or another, if you're using Google Sheets as a data source, we still have to deal with this issue. So if we don't pay Google to exceed the quota limit, then we have to pay one of these companies or authors, those who author these add-ons, to use their services. Okay, so we'll get back to you when we find one that really works very well for our purposes, and one that has good support, so that we don't have a solution today that is going to be obsolete by tomorrow. Okay, so those are the things we wanted to update you about. One last thing is that I know probably you're wondering why I'm going from one page to another here, instead of just writing all the data getting all the data at once. So what happens in the documentation, Woocommerce, the creators of the Woocommerce API acknowledge that heavy queries to the API, to the databases, really affect site performance. So in that regard, they have said that the maximum number of results you can get each time is 100. So that's why I'm using here 100. I'm saying here per page is equals to 100. Now to get, so that I don't just get 100 records and it ends there. Now I'm creating a loop so that I'm saying from page 1 to page 11, go back and get me 100 records each time. That's how we got 1,000 records. So I can literally get all the orders that have been on this website since its creation. Okay, all I need to do is to change this maximum. I need to change this maximum, and then it's going to give me all the orders that have been made on this website since its creation. Okay, otherwise, so that's where we are at the moment. You can tell us what you think. Maybe if you have an idea that could help us, we can also, we'd really appreciate that. Yeah, so I think that's all. Thank you for watching.